Guys, I think it's important that you understand the difference between a deed of trust, also called a mortgage, and a note. These are the three main instruments that are involved with the transfer of real estate when debt is incurred in that transfer. Listen carefully. A deed is ownership. When you buy a property, they will give you a deed. It can be, depending on how you structured this, you can get a quitclaim deed. You can get a warranty or a general warranty deed. I'm not going to go into all this with you on what all these are. There's slight differences. Or a special warranty deed. But the bottom line is you got a deed. Property is now in your name. A deed of trust or a mortgage is a deed. Let's call it a deed that can jump in. This is often called the pay to stay document. What this means is, yes, John Smith, you have a deed in ownership to the property. However, we, the bank, have a deed of trust, also called a mortgage. That deed of trust says, if you don't pay our note, we can take the property away, and now it's in our name, in a foreclosure proceeding. Okay, this is a mortgage situation here, okay? They will take it. Depending on the state, it's either a deed of trust or it's a mortgage. It's the same thing. They're gonna take that property unless you pay your bills. Unless you pay what you're supposed to pay every month, they have the right to come in and take it. That's what gives them the right to foreclose, deed of trust or a mortgage. Now the final thing is a note. What this is, and I'm oversimplifying, I know, so nobody jump on me for this, it is terms of debt. What percent are you paying? How long? When does it start? What's the address? Just to make sure, or the legal description, all this information is in the note. The note is not attached to the property. The note is debt. It's basically a signature loan. However, even though it's not attached to the property, it goes hand in hand with the deed of trust, which is attached to the property and can foreclose. Now, let's say you own it, your name is John Smith. You're going into foreclosure because you haven't paid your mortgage. They're going to start the foreclosure proceedings. Let's say it's B of A, Bank of America, right? And let's say you also have a Wachovia loan, by the way. So both of these guys have deeds of trust against the property. One has priority over the other, that's Bank of America. The priority of claim is determined by who recorded it first. It's a race to the courthouse in most states, guys. Bank of America had it first. Usually you'll see on the deeds of trust, it doesn't say this is a first or a second. Sometimes it will. But it comes down to when was it recorded. Okay? All right. B of A is foreclosing. Wachovia had a second against the property. Now, B of A forecloses. John owed him $100,000. It forecloses for $120,000. Wachovia is owed $50,000. They go get that 20. There was a 20. It sold for $120,000. B of A was owed $100,000. Wachovia steps in and takes their $20,000 in overage. They were owed $50,000. Guess what? They have a note, just like Bank of America did against John Smith, for $50,000, where only 20 of that has been satisfied. They can get a deficiency judgment. Now this is something that's very important to understand, because some of you guys, what they're telling you online is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. They're saying, well, if Bank of America foreclosed, it kicked out all the other deeds. No one else is owed any money. John's got to be entitled to the money. That's baloney. Yes, when Bank of America, when they foreclosed on the property, it kicked out Wachovia's deed of trust. It did not kick out Wachovia's note. That's why Wachovia, they're still dead. It's a signature loan, basically. Well, that's why Wachovia can come in and collect that 20 grand and still ding him for 30 grand because they were owed 50. They can still get a deficiency judgment against John for 30 grand. So you have to understand how all this works, and that is, yes, deeds of trust are kicked out by the foreclosure, regardless if it's tax or mortgage, by the way, but they are kicked out. The note is not. That's why Wachovia is still in a position to collect surplus funds, and that's why, because they didn't have enough to cover their debt, they can also go after for a deficiency judgment. These guys that are telling you, oh, well, somebody foreclosed, so all the other debt was wiped out. That is a lie. Anybody in this industry will tell you that. Any mortgage person will tell you that. Debt's not gone. Doesn't wipe out debt. It takes the deed. Wachovia no longer, in this case, since they were a second mortgage, they no longer were attached to the property. They didn't have a deed of trust. It has to kick that out, guys, or you could never transfer property in foreclosures. Okay? Debt does not stay against the property in this case because the deed of trust was wiped out from the foreclosure because Bank of America was in first position. They also had a note. The note is not kicked out. I hope you understand it. Rewind this, watch it like 10 different times. Bottom line, deed is ownership. Deed of trust is a way for a bank or another entity to come in and take ownership if you don't meet the terms of the note. Somebody else is in first position and they have a deed of trust in front of somebody, they can wipe that person out by foreclosing. Okay, it happens. Doesn't wipe out the note. The note is debt. Debt is not wiped out. Hope that helps.